You wake before the city does. Not because of the bells, they haven't rung yet. Not because of the sun, it still sleeps beneath the horizon. You wake because the air has changed. The forge no longer holds the heat from the night before. It has turned to ash and iron dust. Your body knows this before your eyes open. Your hands ache. One knee has locked. Your neck is stiff. These are the clocks you trust. These are the things that tell you it's time. You sit up on the straw mat, scratch at your ribs, and reach for the chip basin near the hearth. It holds yesterday's water, now cool and still. You splash some on your face, breathing through your mouth to avoid the stale copper tang that always clings to standing water in King's Landing. A rat watches you from the corner of the room, whiskers twitching. You blink at each other. It does not run. You live alone above the forge. Below you, in the stone belly of the shop, the anvils wait like old priests. You pull on your tunic, the same one, always the same one, blackened from smoke, slicked with old sweat and burns that have turned the wool stiff in places. You tie your apron, loop the leather band around your wrist where the iron once snapped and tore your skin, and head down the creaking steps. The streets are still quiet. The gutters, not yet flushed by the washerwomen, reek of night rot and spilled ale. Somewhere nearby, a dog growls low, followed by the bark of a vendor cursing it away from a basket of morning bread. A few crows linger on the rooftops, silent, heads cocked. The red keep looms above you, distant and indifferent. Its towers drink the first drops of morning light before the rest of the city even stirs. You're not the only one awake. Across the way, old Moria, the candle seller, is already hauling her cart out of the alley, her back bent more than it was yesterday. She nods. You nod back. Words aren't needed. They rarely are at this hour. There's only movement, repetition, the first strike of the hammer, the hiss of iron meeting water. Inside the forge, the coals are dead. You said about relighting them, flint, straw, patience. You've done it 1,000 times. The trick is not in the spark, but in the breath. Too soft and it dies. Too strong and it scatters. You find the rhythm, the slow, circular coaxing that turns cinders into glow, glow into flame. You pump the bellows. The forge exhales. The day begins. You don't speak unless spoken to. Customers come and go. Guards mostly. Sometimes stable hands. Once, last winter, Sir Burris Blount himself stood in your doorway and stared at the soot. He never returned. You didn't mind. This week has felt different, though. The guards are more tense. There are more of them. Their swords are polished too bright. Some have new sigils you don't recognize. Yesterday, a boy, thin, dirt-smeared, missing 2 teeth, came running through the street, shouting something about a wolf's head and a lion's roar. You didn't ask. You only listened. That's what you do. You listen, and you hammer. Around midday, the clang of hooves on cobblestone signals a passing retinue. You step outside just as a line of Lannister soldiers rides by, red cloaks swaying, faces blank. One of them tosses a copper at your feet. It clinks and spins. You don't pick it up. Later, in the tavern, the talk is thick and stupid. Everyone's a prophet when drunk. Stark's gone too far, says the bald man with the fingerless gloves. King's a boy. The real power's the queen, mutters another. I heard he's being held in the dungeons, whispers the barmaid, eyes wide, voice low. You nod. You sip. You let them say what they need to say. When you leave, the sky is bruised with dusk. Smoke from the chimneys mixes with the sea breeze, turning the air to salt and soot. Children chase each other between carts. A woman with a basket of dead fish glares as you pass. She knows your face. You've never spoken. Back at the forge, there's a note tucked into the door frame. Folded parchment, rough hand. You open it. The writing is uneven but deliberate. Need a blade. Clean. Fast. No markings. 2 days. No name. Just a place. The usual way. You burn the note after memorizing it, watching the paper curl into nothing in the firelight. That night, you sleep on your back. The forge breathes beside you. Outside, bells ring somewhere up the hill, slow and somber. Not for the dead. Not yet. You dream of iron, not the iron of swords or shields, not the kind that sings in the hands of heroes, but the kind that sits heavy and quiet, that warps with heat and stains your nails black. You dream of slag and smoke, of furnaces that never go out. You wake with the weight of the hammer still in your palm, though your fingers grasp only the air. The forge has not cooled. You left a small fire to smolder, and it rewards you with a pocket of warmth when you rise. Your legs crack as you stand. You feel the uneven stone beneath your heel, a chip near the threshold, always cold. You step over it like you always do, like your father taught you. The stone has been there longer than you. It'll be there longer still. You don't light a candle. You know the space too well to need it. You wash, dress, and descend. The apron waits on the hook. The embers wait in the belly of the forge. You pump the bellows once, twice, until the glow comes back. You grind the first of your iron stock, flatten it on the anvil, listening to the hiss and song of waking metal. It stretches like dough beneath your hands. You don't start the secret blade yet, not today, and not when eyes might be watching. Instead, you begin a plowshare for a farmer in Flea Bottom. He won't pay on time, but he always brings something. A jar of pickled onions, a strip of rabbit, once a half loaf of raisin bread that didn't taste of raisins at all. You take what comes. You work as always. Around midday, the boy returns. The toothless one, this time he's not running. He walks beside a man in brown, silent, stiff, the way a mouse walks when it knows it's being watched. The man doesn't speak. He sets a hand on the boy's shoulder and nods once at your open shop front. You don't pause. You keep hammering, but you feel it. The attention, not hostile. Not friendly, just measuring. When they leave, you find another mark scratched on the side of your door. Barely visible. A curve. A line through it. Old Thorn used that sign once, back when smuggling was called surviving and every tool had a hidden edge. You wipe it off with your thumb. No need for questions. That evening, the sky's the color of spent coal. The Red Keep watches the city like it always does, unmoved, untouchable. From the direction of the sept, you hear the toll of bells. Fast this time, urgent, not death. Not warning, summons. You wake before the city does. Not because of the bells, they haven't rung yet. Not because of the sun, it still sleeps beneath the horizon. You wake because the air has changed. The forge no longer holds the heat from the night before. It has turned to ash and iron dust. Your body knows this before your eyes open. Your hands ache. One knee has locked. Your neck is stiff. These are the clocks you trust. These are the things that tell you it's time. You sit up on the straw mat, scratch at your ribs, and reach for the chip basin near the hearth. It holds yesterday's water, now cool and still. You splash some on your face, breathing through your mouth to avoid the stale copper tang that always clings to standing water in King's Landing. A rat watches you from the corner of the room, whiskers twitching. You blink at each other. It does not run. You live alone above the forge. Below you, in the stone belly of the shop, the anvils wait like old priests. You pull on your tunic, the same one, always the same one, blackened from smoke, slicked with old sweat and burns that have turned the wool stiff in places. You tie your apron, loop the leather band around your wrist where the iron once snapped and tore your skin, and head down the creaking steps. The streets are still quiet. The gutters, not yet flushed by the washerwomen, reek of night rot and spilled ale. Somewhere nearby, a dog growls low, followed by the bark of a vendor cursing it away from a basket of morning bread. A few crows linger on the rooftops, silent, heads cocked. The Red Keep looms above you, distant and indifferent. Its towers drink the first drops of morning light before the rest of the city even stirs. You're not the only one awake. Across the way, old Moria, the candle seller, is already hauling her cart out of the alley, her back bent more than it was yesterday. She nods. You nod back. Words aren't needed. They rarely are at this hour. There's only movement, repetition, the first strike of the hammer, the hiss of iron meeting water. Inside the forge, the coals are dead. You said about relighting them, flint, straw, patience. You've done it 1,000 times. The trick is not in the spark, but in the breath. Too soft and it dies. Too strong and it scatters. You find the rhythm, the slow, circular coaxing that turns cinders into glow, glow into flame. You pump the bellows. The forge exhales. The day begins. You don't speak unless spoken to. Customers come and go. Guards mostly. Sometimes stable hands. Once, last winter, Cerberus Blount himself stood in your doorway and sneered at the soot. He never returned. You didn't mind. This week has felt different, though. The guards are more tense. There are more of them. Their swords are polished too bright. Some have new sigils you don't recognize. Yesterday, a boy, thin, dirt-smeared, missing 2 teeth, came running through the street, shouting something about a wolf's head and a lion's roar. You didn't ask. You only listened. That's what you do. You listen, and you hammer. Around midday, the clang of hooves on cobblestone signals a passing retinue. You step outside just as a line of Lannister soldiers rides by, red cloaks swaying, faces blank. One of them tosses a copper at your feet. It clinks and spins. You don't pick it up. Later, in the tavern, the talk is thick and stupid. Everyone's a prophet when drunk. Stark's gone too far, says the bald man with the fingerless gloves. King's a boy. The real power's the queen, mutters another. I heard he's being held in the dungeons, whispers the barmaid, eyes wide, voice low. You nod. You sip. You let them say what they need to say. When you leave, the sky is bruised with dusk. Smoke from the chimneys mixes with the sea breeze, turning the air to salt and soot. Children chase each other between carts. A woman with a basket of dead fish glares as you pass. She knows your face. You've never spoken. Back at the forge, there's a note tucked into the door frame. Folded parchment, rough hand. You open it. The writing is uneven but deliberate. Need a blade. Clean. Fast. No markings. 2 days. No name. Just a place. The usual way. You burn the note after memorizing it, watching the paper curl into nothing in the firelight. That night, you sleep on your back. The forge breathes beside you. Outside, bells ring somewhere up the hill, slow and somber. Not for the dead. Not yet. You dream of iron, not the iron of swords or shields, not the kind that sings in the hands of heroes, but the kind that sits heavy and quiet, that warps with heat and stains your nails black. You dream of slag and smoke, of furnaces that never go out. You wake with the weight of the hammer still in your palm, though your fingers grasp only the air. The forge has not cooled. You left a small fire to smolder, and it rewards you with a pocket of warmth when you rise. Your legs crack as you stand. You feel the uneven stone beneath your heel, a chip near the threshold, always cold. You step over it like you always do, like your father taught you. The stone has been there longer than you. It'll be there longer still. You don't light a candle. You know the space too well to need it. You wash, dress, and descend. The apron waits on the hook. The embers wait in the belly of the forge. You pump the bellows once, twice, until the glow comes back. You grind the first of your iron stock, flatten it on the anvil, listening to the hiss and song of waking metal. It stretches like dough beneath your hands. You don't start the secret blade yet, not today, and not when eyes might be watching. Instead, you begin a plowshare for a farmer in Flea Bottom. He won't pay on time, but he always brings something. A jar of pickled onions, a strip of rabbit. Once a half loaf of raisin bread that didn't taste of raisins at all. You take what comes. You work as always. Around midday, the boy returns. The toothless one, this time he's not running. He walks beside a man in brown, silent, stiff, the way a mouse walks when it knows it's being watched. The man doesn't speak. He sets a hand on the boy's shoulder and nods once at your open shop front. You don't pause. You keep hammering, but you feel it. The attention, not hostile. Not friendly, just measuring. When they leave, you find another mark scratched on the side of your door. Barely visible. A curve. A line through it. Old Thorn used that sign once, back when smuggling was called surviving and every tool had a hidden edge. You wipe it off with your thumb. No need for questions. That evening, the sky's the color of spent coal. The Red Keep watches the city like it always does, unmoved, untouchable. From the direction of the sept, you hear the toll of bells. Fast this time, urgent, not death. Not warning, summons. Because now the noise returns, first as muttering. Then voices, then the push, the chant, the spit, the cheers from some. The sobs from others, you close the shutters. Downstairs, you stoke the forge. The coals take longer than usual. Maybe the wind's wrong. Maybe your hands are shaking. You tell yourself it doesn't matter. The steel doesn't care about your feelings. It only wants fire and rhythm. You give it both. By noon, 3 guards come with a dented helm and a bent sword. One of them is bleeding, knuckles skinned, eye already swelling. You don't ask. They don't offer. You take the pieces and tell them to come back in 2 days. They don't argue. You work until your back seizes. Until your fingers blister again where old calluses had smoothed. You don't stop. The sound of hammer and anvil drowns out the city. That's the point. That's always been the point. At dusk you walk. Not far. Just down to the well, where the stones are worn and smooth from centuries of feet. The water smells the same. You drink from your cupped hands, eyes closed. Somewhere nearby, someone sings an old lullaby, off-key, half-remembered. At the square, the platform is empty. They've taken the body, but not the stain. The boards are still wet in places. Flies gather in quiet worship. A boy throws a rock at a crow. Misses. The crow doesn't even flinch. You pass through like smoke. Back in the forge, you find something tucked into the doorframe again. Not parchment this time. Cloth. A strip of red, knotted once in the middle. The kind of sign that used to mean loyalty, or debt, or both. You burn it without unfolding it. That night, the air is thick. Not with heat, but with something else. Something sour, something left behind. You leave the window cracked to let it out. It doesn't leave. You sleep beside the forge, but you do not rest. You dream of rope, of ash, of the sound of a crowd breathing as one. You wake with a start, heart knocking against the inside of your ribs like it wants out. And outside, the city keeps moving. Tomorrow, more orders will come. More blades will be asked for. Someone will want horseshoes, someone else a barrel ring, and someone, always someone, will want something sharp, fast, and quiet. You will give them what they ask for. You always do. In the morning, the sky hangs low, not with clouds, but with weight. Even the birds seem unsure whether to fly. The crows perch in rows along the rooftops, still as soot stains. They do not call. The forge feels colder than it should, though the embers still glow faintly beneath last night's ash. You feed them without thinking. The motions are muscle deep now, older than speech. A bit of straw, a twist of kindling, the slow coaxing breath. You hum under your breath an old melody, one your mother used to hum when oil was scarce and the bread thin. You haven't thought of her in years. The tune brings nothing but a hollow ache in the belly. You let it die out before it reaches the chorus. By midday, the streets are swollen with footsteps. People walking without knowing where they're going, just needing to move, to talk, to be seen near others. The ones who cheer are quieter now, the ones who weep, even more so. Something has settled over King's Landing, not mourning, not yet, not anger either. Just something dense and uncertain. You get 3 customers before noon. The first is a stable hand with a cracked stirrup and an eye that won't stop twitching. He doesn't meet your gaze. He overpays without noticing. The second is a woman in a black cloak, too fine for the district. She doesn't give her name. She wants nails. 100 exactly. Iron, not bronze. For repairs, she says. You don't ask what kind. The third is a child, the same toothless boy, now carrying a satchel too large for his frame. He says nothing, just places a wrapped bundle on your bench and leaves. Inside, cloth, rope, a folded note with a list of weights and lengths. The handwriting is different this time, neater, practiced, but still without a name. That afternoon, smoke rises from the direction of the sept. Not fire, not yet. Just incense, maybe? Or too much cooking from the outer kitchens, or something worse. You don't go to see. No one who makes their living with fire seeks out someone else's smoke. In the tavern, the regulars drink less, talk less. The bald man with the fingerless gloves has stopped making predictions. He watches the door instead. The barmaid smiles when she sees you, but it's a tired thing. A smile made of habit, not joy. Heard the hand confessed. She mutters while pouring. Said he plotted to kill the king. You nod. Doesn't sound like him, she adds after a pause. You nod again. Doesn't matter though. They say the queen has the boy's ear now. The little one, Tommen. Or is it the angry one? You shrug. I can't keep them straight, she says. Then quieter. I think that's the point. You finish your drink. You leave a coin. You leave before the silence thickens. That night, a scream cuts through the alley behind your forge. Not close. Not urgent. Just sharp, like a rip in the fabric of something. It fades fast. No one opens their shutters. No one lights a candle. You work through it. You file the edges of the new blade. Not the secret one, not this time. A cleaver. Big, broad-backed. Ordered weeks ago by a butcher who now walks with a limp and speaks only to his pigs. He won't remember ordering it, but he'll pay anyway. They always do. You wrap the hilt in boiled leather. It smells strong. Tangy, like old sweat, like truth. The moon rises thin and crooked, like a fishbone in the sky. You do not watch it. Instead, you sit by the forge until the coals fall quiet, and you listen to the city breathe. And somewhere in that breathing, beneath the wheeze of the gutters, the creak of shutters, the distant hoofbeats clattering uphill, you hear it again, the hush. Not the same one as before, but close. A sibling to it. A prelude. You've heard that kind of quiet before, right before the rain, or a riot, or a war. And tomorrow, they will need steel. They always do. You rise before the sun again. Your knees crack like old wood as you shift your weight off the mat. Your spine protests, every vertebra singing its complaint. You don't grimace, you don't stretch, you simply stand. The body's aches are no longer obstacles, they are confirmations. Proof that you're still part of the world. The rats have not yet taken your hands. The forge has not yet taken your breath. You still belong here, in this heat, in this soot, in this place that asks for everything and gives only weight in return. Outside, the wind is changing. It carries the sea this morning, salt and brine and tar. But beneath that, something sharper, like rust or blood. The gulls circle lower than usual. One of them lands atop your chimney and does not move. You stare at it through the soot-smeared glass. It stares back. Then, without sound, it lifts off and vanishes. Downstairs, the embers remember you. They glow with minimal persuasion. You don't bother with breakfast. You put on your apron, tie the band around your wrist, and begin shaping iron. It's a slow task today. You choose the work that dulls the mind. Brackets, hinges, a gate pin. Tasks no one notices unless they fail. You've always liked those. They remind you of yourself. Near midday, someone knocks again. Not 3, not 1. This time it's 5, spaced, measured, familiar. You wipe your hands and open the door. It's the same man. The red, not red cloak. His left eye is darker now. Bruised, maybe. He says nothing at first, just holds out his hand. There's no pouch this time. Just a strip of parchment. You take it. He doesn't let go. Make this one fast, he says, and clean. You look down. The parchment is blank. You look back up. He's already gone. That night you begin the blade. This one is smaller. Not a dagger, not quite, a stiletto. Something meant for slipping between ribs. No flourishes, no shine. A blade built for silence, and not the metaphorical kind. You shape it in increments between other orders. Never too long at once. You keep it wrapped between passes. The tang is narrow. The grip will be bone if you can find a piece smooth enough. You have a shard from a sheep's femur you kept out of habit. It'll do. By morning, the city smells of ash. Real ash this time. Something burned in the night. Not a home. Too much stone here for that. Probably carts. Or stock. Maybe people. You hear it in the way the children are quieter. In the way vendors open later. In the way even the dogs avoid the street. The square is guarded now. 2 gold cloaks on either side, pacing with too much purpose. You pass through quickly. No one stops you. You don't look at the platform. You already know what you'll see. Blood needs no witnesses. Only stone. In the alley near the tanner's yard, you hear your name. Not shouted, not spoken, whispered, carried in the air like soot. You don't turn. It comes again, closer, not your full name. Not the one your mother gave, the other one, the name from before. The one you buried. The one no one in King's Landing should know. You stop walking, you listen. Nothing. The alley is empty. The wind lifts a scrap of linen from a gutter. It flutters, spins, lands again. Your hand drifts to the knife at your hip. Not the new one, not yet finished. The old one. The one that saved your skin more than once. The one with the nick in the edge you never sharpen now. You move on. That evening, a knock at the back door. Not the front, not the usual kind. Just 2 soft taps and then a long silence. You don't open it. You wait. You press your ear against the wood. You hear nothing but your own breathing. Later, when you check, there's nothing there. No mark. But someone left boot prints in the ash. They stood for a while. Long enough to smoke, maybe. Long enough to think. You finish the stiletto that night. The bone grip fits snugly. You polish it with oil until it gleams like wet ivory. The blade itself is dull in color, not because it lacks sharpness, but because it wants to disappear. You wrap it in oilcloth. You place it beneath the floorboard with the others. There are 4 now. None have names. None have owners you'd speak aloud. In the morning, you will deliver it, but not to a person. To a place. A box behind the broken cistern near the sept. Everyone knows the box. No one admits it. You'll leave it there. It will vanish, and something will happen, or someone will vanish, and the city will go on pretending it doesn't notice, because King's Landing is good at that, and so are you. You wake to silence that feels unnatural, not the peaceful kind, not the hush of dawn before the city stirs, but something closer to an absence, as if sound itself has stepped aside. Even the rats are still. Even the wind seems to be listening. You sit up slowly, unsure if it was a dream that woke you or the lack of one. Your back aches more than usual. Your fingers are stiff. You flex them in the half-dark, waiting for pain to remind you you're still here. It does. You light no candle. The forge knows you by feel. You descend the stairs like a shadow, barefoot, each board beneath you remembering the rhythm of your weight. The embers have gone completely cold, unusual. You don't remember letting them die. You don't remember much about falling asleep. You do not relate them. Not yet. Instead, you cross to the wall and check the space behind the stack of broken shield rims, a hiding place of sorts. A shelf you hollowed out years ago, lined with soot-black rags and old dust. The other blades are still there, the ones not yet claimed. But one is missing, the stiletto. You never delivered it. You would remember delivering it. You stand motionless, one hand still inside the hiding place. Long enough for your knees to lock. Long enough for your breath to slow. The door is still bolted, the windows unbroken. No footprints on the soot near the threshold. No scratches, no sign. Just absence, just gone. You don't panic. That's not your way. You close the hiding place. Cover it. Then you light the forge. The fire catches easily this time, too easily. The kind of instant flame that comes with pre-laid tinder. As if someone had prepared it. As if someone had been here. By midday, the city is on edge again. You can feel it in the way people walk. Faster, shoulders tighter, eyes flicking. Not fear. Worse than that. Suspicion. Rumors walk faster than soldiers, and there are more of them now than yesterday. Gold cloaks on every street. Searching nothing, finding less. You know, the look of men ordered to make noise. This is noise. The tavern is closed. You find out from a passing fishmonger. She spits when she says it. Says the barkeep mouthed it off to the wrong man. Says he's likely down in the black cells now, if he's lucky. You ask nothing. You nod once and move on. At dusk, you find a mark scratched into the alley wall near your forge. Not a symbol you've seen before. Just a straight line, perfectly vertical, and a small circle beneath it. Like a man hanging. You do not touch it. You do not clean it. You go inside and bolt the doors. That night, you find another blade missing. The long one, the first of the 4. The one made for reach, not subtlety. The one you forged the week the wolves arrived in the city. It's gone. No sign of disturbance. No break-in, no sound, just gone. You sit beside the forge, back pressed to the warm stone, and try to remember who knew about the hiding place. You come up with no one. Not living anyway. You don't sleep that night, not truly. You doze in fragments, moments between the creak of the roof and the wind outside. You see faces in the coals, some, most you don't. One keeps returning. A boy, maybe 14, hair like straw. Eyes wide and empty. His mouth moves, but you hear no sound. In the morning, there is a body near the square. No platform this time, no trial. Just a body, face down, bound hands stretched awkwardly beneath the ribs. No one claims to know who it was. The gold cloaks remove it by noon. The blood remains until evening. You don't go near it. You work. That night, you find a letter tucked under your door. Not a note. A letter, folded proper, wax seal, unmarked but clean. You break it open with the corner of your blade. Inside, one sentence. One more. For the boy. No name, no instructions, just that. You stare at it long enough for the letters to blur. Then you place it in the fire. You don't watch it burn. You simply begin again. Another blade, because that's what you do. You listen, you hammer. And the city forgets. You begin the new blade with slower hands. Not out of caution, out of respect. The steel deserves it. It came from an old cart axle traded weeks ago by a man who said nothing, only placed it on your bench and nodded once. You remember the weight of that nod, the quiet behind it. Some metals want to be weapons. This one just didn't want to be forgotten. You heat it long and low, the kind of orange heat that hums instead of hissing. You hammer gently with the flat, coaxing it into length. You don't rush the shape. The spine will stay thick, not for strength, for memory. Whoever uses this blade will feel every motion that brought it into the world. Outside, the heat is returning to the city. Not summer heat, not sun heat. The kind that comes from too many bodies, too little air. The kind that makes the gutters rise early, the dogs snap without warning, the meat rot faster in the stalls. Tempers are short, eyes linger too long. Even the gold cloaks walk in pairs now. You keep to yourself. You stop going to the tavern. The barkeep hasn't returned. The barmaid hasn't been seen in days. You learn more from listening at your window now. Half-formed talk from passing carts. Whispered arguments at night. Sobs muffled through stone. A child is hanged in flea bottom. No one says why. A woman is dragged screaming from her stall near the street of flour. Her bread is still on the cart when night falls. No one takes it. You finish the blade in 3 days. The grip is wrapped in old sailcloth, stained with brine and time. The balance is strange, too light in the front, but you leave it that way. Some blades aren't meant to fight back. Some are meant to slip through and vanish. You don't hide it this time. You leave it on the bench. You sit across from it as the fire burns low, and you wait. That night, they come. Not through the door, not loudly. A soft sound like cloth against stone, a rhythm, a knowing presence. You don't move. You don't speak. You don't need to. The back door creaks open. Footsteps pause. Something is taken. You hear the shift of weight, the silence of someone acknowledging a job well done. Then the door closes again, and you are alone. Again. You rise at dawn and sweep the coals. The ash is different now, darker, finer, like someone else's fire died in your hearth. You dump it out the back, watching it drift into the alley like smoke that lost its flame. That day, the city erupts. You don't see it begin, you feel it. Like pressure. Like the moment before metal gives. Like when the tongs slip and you see the hammer falling and there's no time to move. Screams from the east. Horses panicking. Bells. Not the temple bells, but alarm bells from the watchtowers. A sound no one practices for. You stay inside. You bar the door. Not out of fear, out of irrelevance. You are not part of this. You are only iron and heat and breath. Still, the noise finds you. Still clashing too close. Voices shouting orders no one listens to. Then hours later, only moaning. Then only flies dot by sunset. The street is empty again, not clean. Not quiet, just emptied. The kind of silence that follows after a body is removed, but not blessed. You step over blood to collect water. You recognize none of the faces except one. The boy. You work through the night, though your body protests with every movement. Each swing of the hammer reverberates deeper than usual, echoing in your shoulders, your elbows, your teeth. But the forge doesn't care. The steel doesn't care. The blade takes shape anyway. This one's different. You don't plan it. You don't measure or mark. You let your hands decide. The length comes from habit, the curve from memory. There's something cruel in the shape, not ornamental, but efficient. The kind of edge that wants to hurt, not just kill. You don't know what that says about you. You don't stop to think about it. Outside, the city moans. Not loudly, it's too tired for that now. The riots haven't stopped, just slowed. You hear fewer horses now, more boots. More dragging sounds, more distant sobbing from behind shutters. The cobblers aren't singing anymore. The butchers don't shout their prices. Even the bells toll without rhythm, as if the men pulling the ropes have forgotten what their forgot something is breaking. Not a wall. Not a king. The city. And you've lived here long enough to know, once a city starts to crack, it doesn't shatter all at once. It crumbles quietly. Like bread gone stale, like bone underweight. Piece by piece, you quench the blade before dawn. It hisses like a serpent, like steam from a wound. You don't flinch. You never do. You let it cool in silence, then lay it across the stone shelf by the wall. You don't wrap it. You don't hide it. You don't name it. It will not stay long enough to need one dot by morning. The sky is wrong. Too pale, too still, as if the color has been drained from the world. You walk to the well to wash your face and find the water covered in a thin layer of ash. You skim it away with your palm, splash what's left over your eyes, and spit on the stone. The streets are still, but not empty. A few people linger in doorways, speaking in low voices, eyes darting like hunted things. You see fewer soldiers now, but the ones you do see are different. Not gold cloaks, not Lannister red, not even banners, just armor. Dark, dull, tight at the throat. Foreign cuts, unfamiliar blades. The city has changed hands. You don't need a raven to tell you that. You return to the forge and find the door ajar. Not broken, not forced. Just ajar. Inside, nothing is missing. But everything is wrong. The air smells of sweat not your own. Of oil that isn't yours. Of breath that still lingers in the corners. Someone was here. Not to steal, not to threaten, to look. To know, on your workbench beside the blade, there's a single object, a ring. Thick, iron, plain, but old. Too old for any living hand. The metal bears a symbol you recognize. The stag, twisted in profile. Baratheon, but the crown is broken. A crack runs through the band. Deliberate, final. You don't touch it. You sit across from it. You wait. By dusk, the city grows louder again. But not with people, with fire. Somewhere far, a building collapses. The sound is distant, but deep, like stone screaming. Smoke curls through the alleys. The sky's painted with it, purple and red and black. And still the bells do not stop. You wonder who's ringing them. You wonder what's left to ring for. Someone knocks. Not the door. The window. One tap, then two, then nothing. You rise, you open it. No one there. But at your feet, another blade. One of yours, from months ago. The short one with the wolf tooth hilt. You remember the weight. You remember who ordered it. You remember he was already dead when you finished it. You leave it there. That night, the fire in the forge burns too hot. You can't explain it. The coal was the same. The air was still. But the flames licked higher than they should, brighter than they should. The blade by the wall glows faintly in the heat, though it hasn't touched the fire. You douse the bellows and close the flue, but the coals take too long to die. You sit beside them anyway. You close your eyes. You dream of a city that forgets its name, of a king with no face, of a hand reaching for your throat, not to harm, but to ask something. To demand something, something sharp, something clean. You wake with your hand on your hammer, your mouth dry, your breath shallow, and the city, still burning, the one with no teeth. He's lying near the gutter, half covered with a broken crate. His hands are small, his eyes are closed. You do not check if he breathes. You do not speak. You only kneel. You only take the strip of leather from his wrist, one you gave him once to carry a parcel, and you place it in your pocket. Then you return to the forge. That night, you don't sleep. You begin another blade. You don't know who it's for, but someone will come. They always do. You wake with a name on your lips, not your own. You don't remember the dream, only the name Sander. The sound of it stays with you like iron filings in the lung. You rise slowly. Your breath is tight. Your mouth tastes like smoke, though the forge is cold. You light it anyway. The fire gives you something to do, something to hold. You don't think about the name, not yet. Outside, the city moves like a wounded animal, fast in bursts, then still too long. You hear carts at odd hours, cries that aren't market cries, bells ringing where there are no steps. The air tastes wrong, like pitch and rust and secrets. You go to the square before noon, not to see, but to feel. There's a scaffold again, smaller than before, no crowds, no announcements. Just a platform, a noose, and two guards playing dice at its base. They look bored. That's what chills you. The boredom, as if death has become so common it no longer earns their attention. You leave before the game ends. At the market, half the stalls are gone. The ones that remain sell turnips, salt, dried fish, a kind of black bread that tastes like rope. A woman calls out for needles. Not swords, not blades, just needles. You glance once. She wears a cloak too fine for her wares, eyes too sharp for her voice. You don't stop, but you remember her face. In the tavern, a different one now, 2 alleys deeper and twice as dark, you sit near the back. You don't drink. You listen Dot at the next table. 3 men play at being quiet. You've heard better whispers from Blacksmith's bellows. One leans in, says, I swear it, I saw the queen's brother himself in the brothel last night. The tall one with the gold hair, not the imp. The other one. Another snorts. You'd know the difference, would you? Ask your wife. They laugh, but it's tight. Like their throats are wrapped too tight to let it out fully. The third one, quieter. They say the imp's in the tower again. Talking to spiders. A pause. One of them spits. If the eunuch shows up in my dreams again, I'll put a knife in my ear. They laugh harder this time, but you notice none of them finish their drinks. Later, near the sept, a boy is shouting about a red woman. He wears no shoes, and his voice cracks, but he speaks with the certainty of madness. She's fire walking. I saw her in the alley with smoke in her eyes. She kissed a rat and it burned. No one stops him. A few toss coins. Most just pass. But an old man standing by the wall mutters, better a burning kiss than a cold crown. You don't ask what he means. Back at the forge, you find something strange. Not a message. Not a mark. A feather, black, long, fresh. Not from the rooftops, no dust. No blood. Just clean. Like it was placed, not dropped. You turn it over in your hand. There's a faint scent on it. Not perfume, not oil. Something faintly sweet. You've smelled it before. Once. Years ago. When a man in gray asked you to sharpen a blade that had no edge. You burn the feather. That night, a man knocks at your door. He wears a hood. Doesn't show his face. Doesn't speak. He lifts a pouch and tilts it, coin by the sound. You open the door, Dot. He places it on your anvil. Then, from his cloak, he removes a folded scrap of parchment. Hands it to you. Waits. You read it, Dot. No names. No request. Just a drawing. A blade. Curved slightly, with notches along the back. You know the shape. It's meant for pain. Not death. You nod once. He leaves. You begin immediately. The steel feels different this time. Not heavy. Not light. Just ... expectant, like it knows where it's going. Like it's already been there and come back, whispering. As you hammer, the wind shifts. Through the crack in the shutters, you hear a voice rise up the street, high, clear, not human. A song ... not in the common tongue. Not in any tongue, you know. A child's voice. Or something mimicking one. You pause. You don't move toward the window. You don't move at all, because you've learned something the city hasn't. Not all songs are meant to be heard. Some are traps. You return to the blade ... it needs you ... and in this city, need is the only truth left. You don't stop working, even after the fire begins to bleed orange across the shutters. The forge is your clock, your confessor, your last certainty. The blade takes shape with unusual ease, as though it had already existed and only needed someone to lift it from the ore. Each hammer strike sounds softer than it should, muffled somehow, like the metal is holding its breath. You keep your head down, keep the rhythm, ignore the sweat collecting beneath your arms and the stiff pull in your shoulder from last week's bruise. You do not ask who it's for. That's not your place. You only build the thing that will end something, A conversation, a secret, a life. The fire doesn't care. Neither do you. By the time you cool the edge and hang the blade in the dark, it's well past midnight, but King's Landing does not sleep. Not tonight. The streets speak in tones you've learned to hear through walls. A merchant running too fast, a guard dragging armor across cobblestones, a woman shouting a name that gets lost before it hits the corner. You wash your hands in silence. The soot clings harder these days, as though the city itself wants to mark you for knowing too much. You don't scrape all of it off. A layer stays under the nails, always. You've made peace with that. You step outside before the coals have finished dying. The alley is still, but the air feels too thick, not hot, but swollen, like something is pressing in from above. You walk down toward the narrow lane where the sewer mouth leaks steam, even in the dead of night. It's where the children gather to sleep when they have nowhere else to go. You've given them scraps before, metal too bent to sell, leather with a second life, a crust of bread. They never thank you. That's how you know they trust you. But tonight, they're gone. In their place, a man sits, slumped, hooded, but upright. His cloak is too long, too clean. No smell of the city on him. You slow your step, you do not speak. You stand just far enough to see that he's breathing. Shallow, steady, patient. On his lap, a book sits closed, spine cracked, cover gone. His fingers rest atop it, unmoving. You do not approach. You stand there long enough for the moon to shift, long enough for your feet to ache, long enough to understand that he is not waiting for you. He is waiting for someone else, and that whoever it is will not come. On the walk back, you pass a pair of men whispering behind a curtain of wet laundry strung between windows. You hear the name Denaries and then the words silver hair and dragon in the east. One of them laughs, sharp, broken, not joyful. He says she'll never come here. No girl with fire in her veins wants to rule over this rot. The other answers, then why are the ravens so quiet? You move past them before they notice you. Later, while you oil your tools, you hear the bells again, not from the steps, but from the docks. Slow, measured, 2 beats, pause, 1 more. It's an old signal. Not for sailors. For smugglers. You remember it from before the war, before the gold cloaks got smart. You remember it because it's the sound they used the night they pulled a body out of the black water with a sigil carved into its chest, a son bleeding. You never learned whose house it was. You never wanted to. You return inside and check the hiding place beneath the hearthstone. 3 blades are left. 1 you barely remember forging, 1 you hoped would never be used, and 1 you always meant to keep for yourself. You don't touch them, but you listen. Because behind the wall, for the first time in years, there's movement. Not footsteps, not scraping, breathing dot slow, deliberate, as if someone or something is on the other side of the stone. Listening back, you press your palm to the wall and feel the heat, not from the forge, not from within. You do not sleep that night. You sit by the coals with your back to the door, your hammer across your lap, and the blade, the new one, wrapped in cloth by your side. The city sings itself to sleep in screams and dogs and boots and distant drums. You let the rhythm settle. You let your pulse match the breathing in the wall. And just before dawn, when the wind shifts and the ash from a burning stable rains down like gray snow across the rooftops, you hear 2 voices outside your shutter, hushed, deliberate, hurried. One of them is familiar. A man, clever-tongued, clipped vowels. You've heard him before once, years ago, when he spoke in the market about eunuchs and secrets, though he claimed he was only buying oranges. The other voice is younger, angry, tired. Thick with northern ice dot, the first man says, "If you name her, they'll burn the city down before you finish the sentence." The second answers, "If I don't, there'll be nothing left worth burning." A pause, then, You're not your father. And quieter still. But the city doesn't care. Their footsteps fade, one quick, one heavy. You do not move until the sky begins to pale. Then you rise and begin to prepare the forge again, because someone will knock, because someone always does. You hammer without purpose the next day. Not because there's nothing to do, there's always something to do, but because nothing feels real anymore unless it makes a sound. Steel against steel is the only thing left in the city that doesn't lie. The metal has no agenda, no sigil, no side. It only bends or it breaks. You shape horseshoes for no customer in particular, flatten old nails, smooth the edge of a cleaver meant for someone who will likely never return. You do not watch the street. You do not go to the market. You let the forge become your world, your sound, your defense. But still, the city finds its way in. The screams come earlier today, not at dusk, not in the dark, but under the honest sky. A woman cries for her child. A man begs for his hand. You don't look up. You don't ask. You've lived through too many regimes to mistake chaos for change. At some point in the afternoon, smoke begins to roll past the shutters. You pause then, not because of the smoke. You've smelled worse, but because it carries with it something sharper than fire. A sweetness, burning parchment, or boiling flesh. You go to the door. You open it. The wind brings your answer. The sept is burning. Not a torch thrown by angry hands, not a mob with pitchforks. The real kind, the deep kind, set from within, controlled, executed. Holy fire. The city doesn't panic. Not anymore. It flinches. It winces. It watches. The flames rise against the skyline like a second sun, and for a moment the red roofs and brown stones and broken chimneys all glow golden, as if the city is beautiful again. As if the gods are pleased. They are not. You step back inside and bar the door. Hours pass. The sky turns the color of an old wound. The fire burns until there's nothing left to burn. At some point, the bells stop ringing. Not because someone told them to, because there's no one left to ring them. By nightfall, you are not alone. You hear it before you see it. Slow footsteps, soft, hesitant, then the sound of cloth being wrung between nervous hands. You open the door not because they knock, but because they wait. You feel it, the need behind the wood. She is young. Too young to be carrying the package she holds, too old to be this afraid. You say nothing. She doesn't look at you. She holds out the bundle, wrapped in gray linen, tied with a twist of red thread. Her fingers tremble. He said you'd know what to do. Her voice is a ghost of a whisper. You take the bundle. She doesn't linger. She runs before you can ask who he is. Before you can offer safety. Before you can warn her. You place the bundle on the bench and unwrap it. A blade, but not one of yours. This one is jagged, unfinished, scorched near the base as if it had been half-forged, then drowned. The handle is splintered. The edge warped, but something about it still breathes, still pulses, like a bone dug from fire. There's a scrap of parchment tucked between the folds of linen. No message, just a symbol. A circle of flames around a closed eye. You've never seen it before. You pray you never see it again. You wrap the blade back up and slide it into the coals without ceremony. It does not resist. It burns slower than steel should, with color, with smell. As the last of the cloth curls away, the fire lets out a sound that doesn't belong in any forge. Not crackle, not hiss, something like breath, something like laughter. You don't sleep. You sit in the dark, watching the forge until it forgets what it consumed. Near dawn, there's a knocked up 3. Pause. 2. Not a code, you know. You open the door anyway. The man is soaked, not from rain, from sweat. His cloak is heavy, and beneath it, he drips on your floor like meat left too long in the sun. He closes the door behind him. Speaks low, fast, broken. They're not killing for sides anymore, not names, not banners. You wait. They're killing for balance. He places a coin on your anvil. Black iron, no face, no value. Just wait. He said you'd know what that means. You don't, not truly. But you lie and nod. He turns to leave. At the door, he pauses. They say there's a man in chains under the Red Keep. Not a traitor, not a lord. Just someone who remembers things he shouldn't. You ask your first question in days. What things? He doesn't smile. He just says, the name of the real king. Then he's gone. You stand alone in your forge, surrounded by blades never used, orders never picked up, coals burned for men who forgot to come back. And somewhere beneath your feet, the city turns in its sleep and dreams of fire. You don't answer the door for 2 days after that. Not because no one knocks, they do, more than usual, but because something in you has stopped caring who stands on the other side. The knocks are softer now, more hesitant. Not requests, not even threats. Just offerings. Coins slipped beneath the door. Bundles of steel left on the stoop. Once, a finger in cloth. You ignore them all. You work, but not for others. Not anymore. The hammer still sings, but the tune has changed. The blades you shape now are thinner, more exacting. Not weapons for soldiers, not kitchen knives or plow hooks. They're smaller, meaner, knives for slipping between ribs and words. Steel meant to leave no trace but absence. You don't ask yourself why. You already know. The city has turned in on itself. King's Landing used to breathe, dirty, desperate, uneven, but alive. Now it holds its breath. Not in fear, not in reverence, in preparation. As if everyone is waiting for something worse than fire, worse than swords. The kind of silence that only comes before gods arrive, and they are arriving. You hear it in the way the rats flee before sunset, in the prayers whispered in strange tongues, in the salt burned on windowsills, and the bloody palms of washerwomen who now wipe their doors with ash instead of water, in the faces of men who wear no sigil, no colors, just armor too clean and eyes too empty. You do not go to the market anymore. There's no market. You eat what's left. You drink water that tastes of rust. You sleep only when the fire dies on its own. On the fourth night, a man enters without knocking. The door creaks open like it had been waiting for him. He is tall, broad, with hair cropped close, and a face like someone who used to be beautiful before they learned how to lie with silence. He closes the door behind him and doesn't speak. You wait. He removes a gauntlet and places it on your bench. The fingers are scorched, melted, bits of skin still clinging inside. He doesn't flinch. Then he places something beside it. A book. Bound in cracked leather, warped from heat. No title, no sigil. He gestures at the anvil. I need steel that can outlive memory. You don't nod. You don't ask what he means. You simply reach for the iron. He doesn't stay. He leaves the glove and the book. He does not turn back. When he's gone, you open the book. Not to read, to understand. But there are no words inside. Only lines like topography, like a map written in fever. Some pages are smeared with what might be ink, or might be something else. On one, a single phrase etched into the hide itself, as if scratched by nail. We were never the story. We were always the cost. You close the book, you lock the door, you hammer into the morning. That day, the sky is bruised with clouds. Not storm clouds, but smoke. The Red Keep burns. Not all at once, not the towers, just the base. Just enough to draw a line between what was and what is. You watch from your roof, silent, the iron tang of smoke reaching even your teeth. The people do not scream anymore. They do not run, they kneel. Or they watch. Or they pretend they cannot see. A child sits in the gutter, tracing a blade in the dirt. It's your design. You go back inside. The book is gone. So is the glove. But the knife you were forging, the one with no name, no order, no future, still rests on the anvil. Only now, it's finished. You don't remember finishing it. You wrap it anyway. You do not mark where it's hidden. You lie awake that night, not by the forge, but on the roof where you can see the smoke bleed into stars. Somewhere far off, a horn calls, deep, low, not for war. For something older, something colder. You dream of a wall made of ice, and a sound behind it dot like stone cracking, and breath, and wings. You wake with frost in your hair. The forge is still warm. Dot someone has fed it while you slept. You don't speak the word for it. No one does, not here. But it moves through the city like mold behind stone, the slow, quiet kind that spreads before it's seen. You feel it first in the air, not cold, not yet, just then. Like something is missing from the wind, like a part of the sky has been pulled back, and everything beneath it is waiting to be judged. You notice how the horses shy from shadows now, even in daylight. How the iron doesn't hold its heat as long as it used to. How people light fires not for warmth, but because they're afraid of what happens when they go out. They don't say the word for it, but they know. Somewhere beyond the marshes, beyond the ruined seps and broken banners, something is coming. You've heard the lies people used to name it. Storm. Witch's breath. A curse from beyond the narrow sea. Some even say it's the wrath of the old gods for tearing down too many trees. But you've seen enough steel warp under your own hammer to know when something is bending in the wrong direction and the city is bending. The forge no longer gives comfort, only warmth. That's enough. You feed it each morning with muscle memory, keeping your back to the door more often than not. You work on shapes now that you don't recognize, curved pieces, interlocking parts. Designs left for you without explanation, etched into stones, scratched into door frames, drawn in chalk before the rain takes them away. You don't know who leaves them. You don't ask, but you build what they ask for. One night, you find a man standing in the center of your shop. You didn't hear the door open, didn't hear footsteps. He just is, tall, hunched, wrapped in layers of cloth that move like smoke. His hands are gloved, even in heat. His face is wrapped in gray. Only his eyes visible, pale, distant, like the snow knows them. He does not speak. He simply sets down a bundle, wrapped in fur, sealed with ice dot, not frost. Not morning chill dot ice. You take it in silence. The cold bites through your palms like a memory you never earned. You set it on the anvil. You do not unwrap it until he's gone. Inside, a fragment of what? You don't know, Dot. It's metal. That knot. Harder than obsidian, lighter than bone, etched with lines that hum faintly when your fingers get too close. You place it beneath the hearth. The fire does not warm it. The forge does not recognize it. But it stays. The next morning, there are ravens everywhere. Not flying, not calling, just sitting Dot on rooftops, on chimneys, on cartwheels, watching Dot, and in the square. Someone has scrawled words in blood across the old hanging post. The king never left. He just changed names. By noon, it's gone, scrubbed clean by men with no house colors and polished boots. You watch from the window. One of them looks directly at you, not accusing, not curious. Just long enough to remember your face. That night, you light no fire. You sit in the dark. You do not sleep. When the knock comes, it's soft, patient, the sound of someone who isn't here for violence, just truth. You open the door. She steps inside like a shadow being granted permission to take form. A woman in black, face veiled, boots wrapped in fur so worn they've lost their color. Her hands are pale. She carries nothing, says nothing, but the air around her smells of myrrh and snow and something older. You've never met her, but you know her. You've heard her name in whispers that stop just before breath runs out. You've heard drunkards in back alleys dare each other to say it before falling silent and crossing themselves. You've seen the mark she leaves behind, burned salt, black candles still cold to the touch. You don't speak. You don't move. She crosses to your anvil, lays one finger on the surface, and in a voice that sounds like a prayer said backwards, she says, "The one you made for the boy who burned, it didn't finish him. He walked still." You close your eyes. You remember that blade. You remember the sound it made when it left your hands. He will return. Not to rule, to feed. She turns. You have one more to make. It must end a name. You open your mouth, but she's already fading. Not leaving dot fading dot, like smoke from a fire that never burned wood. You lock the door behind her. Dot, you draw the shutters. You kneel before the forge and whisper something not meant for words. And then you begin, Dot, not with steel, not with fire, but with bone. Because to kill a name, you must build the weapon from what remembers it. You start with bone because steel no longer answers you. You've seen good iron warp for no reason. Coals go black with no wind. Quenched blades come out brittle, hollow, like they've forgotten what it means to bite. But bone remembers. Bone holds stories in its rings, pain in its marrow. And this one, the one you kept behind the false wall for years, sings when you touch it. It isn't human, you know that much. Too long, too smooth. Hollowed by something older than decay. It hums under your fingers, low and steady, like a thread being pulled through skin. You file it slowly, not to shape, to listen. Each stroke reveals another truth. This was not a creature born for peace. It ran once fast, through snow deeper than breath, under skies that knew no sun. You take your time. You give it warmth, but not fire. You wrap it in oilcloth each time you rest. You speak nothing over it. You don't let your shadow fall on it. Some things ask for reverence, whether they can speak or not. The edge comes later, and not from iron. From the fragment the hooded man brought, the shard that didn't worm, didn't bend, didn't rust. You grind it for days. First with stone, then with salt, then with ash. The edge doesn't sharpen, it reveals itself. Like something waking, not being shaped dot, it cuts leather before you finish fitting it. It cuts breath when you hold it too long. And when you fit it to the bone, the silence in the forge changes, not deeper. Not louder dot, still dot, utterly still. Like the forge itself is waiting. You wrap the hilt in your own cloth. From your apron, from the corner near your wrist where the old blood never washed out, you don't sharpen it. You don't polish it. It doesn't want to shine. It wants to end. You don't hide it. You place it in the center of the anvil, uncovered, lit only by the forge glow and the first frost curling across the window glass. You sit across from it, and you wait. The city no longer speaks to you, dot, no. Gossip from carts, no screams in alleys, no market shouts or boots on stone. Even the dogs have gone quiet. Even the bells, dot, especially the bells. You step outside only once, not to leave, but to confirm. The sky's gray, but not with smoke. The clouds hang low and wide like they're listening, and below them, the streets are white. Not snow, ash, falling soft, too clean, without smell. There are no footsteps, no fires, only stillness, only watching. You return to the forge, you sleep. You don't dream in the night, the knock comes, not urgent, not soft, just 3 slow strikes. Wood and intention. You open the door, and it's him. You've never seen his face, but you know by the way the air leaves the room, by the way the flame in the forge flutters like it wants to bow dot, by the way your hand forgets to move. He wears nothing of note, no crown, no armor, no sigil, but the cold arrives with him. Not around him, inside him, the cold you felt in the bone, in the blade. The cold that does not ask to be feared, only obeyed. He doesn't speak. He walks past you, stops at the anvil, and places his hand beside the weapon, not on it dot beside dot, a gesture, not a claim. Then he looks at you. Not with hatred, not with hunger, with recognition dot as if to say, you remember me, you were never meant to. But you do, you nod, because it's true. He picks up the blade, not roughly, not reverently, simply dot as if it was always his dot, and then he turns and leaves dot not with noise, with silence. He steps into the ash-covered street and does not leave footprints. You stand in your doorway long after he's gone, watching the place where the cold still lingers, and in the distance, a horn sounds dot low dot long dot then again. The third time breaks something in your chest, not bone. Not breath dot memory dot you close the door. You bar it dot you sit by the forge, and you begin to heat the next piece of iron, because if he walks the streets now, someone will have to make the things the living use to fight what they cannot understand. You keep the forge burning even when there's no more work. Not because you expect someone to come. No one comes anymore. But because the fire reminds you there's still something here that belongs to the living. The city outside your walls has grown too quiet, too hollow. It doesn't breathe. It doesn't rot. It just waits. Like a body that doesn't know it's dead yet. The ash hasn't stopped falling dot, it moves sideways now, riding wind that no longer feels like wind. Dry, bitter, not cold, not warm, just empty. You step outside once each day, not far, just to see if the sky has remembered what it was. It hasn't. The color never returns. The sun is there somewhere. The light remains, but it reaches the stone like memory, not presence. The people are gone. No screams, no goodbyes, no blood on the cobbles, just gone. Doors ajar, bowls on tables, shoes without feet. You wonder if they walked out into the ash together, or if they each left alone, one by one, when they could no longer stand the silence. You wonder if you missed something, a sound, a word, a command, a kindness, a promise. You wonder, but you don't follow. You stay. You work. You wait. You begin shaping tools again, not blades, not weapons, hooks, shovels, picks, nails, the kind of things used to rebuild or bury. The hammer feels heavier. The steel is duller. You still make it sing. You always have. You keep a single window cracked open in the evenings. Some part of you still expects a knock, a shape, a shadow. But nothing comes. Not even the wind. The silence presses inward now like a blanket made of stone. The kind that muffles breath. The kind that teaches you how to disappear without dying. One night, you hear footsteps, not loud. Not hurried, just real. Real in the way a heartbeat is real when you've gone too long without hearing it. You step outside, slowly, careful not to disturb whatever fragile truth is walking your street. He's young. Barely a man, face hollow. Eyes older than the brick beneath his feet. He wears no cloak, no boots. His hands are black with soot or ash, you can't tell. He carries nothing but a sword on his back. One you didn't make. He looks at you, not pleading, not proud, just recognition, like the way dogs nod at each other before deciding to keep moving. You don't ask him anything. He walks past your door and into the fog, never turning, never speeding up in the morning. You find blood on the anvil, not yours, thick, dark, congealed. No wound on your hands, no cuts on your boots. You didn't hear anything in the night, but the blood is there, as if something stopped by while you were dreaming and left a piece of itself behind. You don't clean it. You light the forge. That day, you hear voices far away. Not inside the city, beyond. Echoes. Calls. Not language, but not random either. The kind of sound soldiers make when drilling, or priests when chanting. You stand on the roof for hours listening. They never get closer, but neither do they stop. At dusk, you climb down. You eat nothing. You drink melted ash water that tastes like silence. You begin work on a blade you didn't plan. You don't know who it's for. You don't even know if it's real. But your hands move as if the design was already waiting inside you. A long grip, heavy hilt, wide blade, not for stabbing, not for breaking. Steel that bends before it snaps. Steel that could take a blow from a god and live long enough to answer dot as the blade takes shape. You feel something shift underfoot dot, not an earthquake, not collapse. A sigh dot like the city itself exhaled for the first time in days. You freeze. You look to the shutter. The ash is still falling, but slower now. Thicker flakes. Like snow trying to remember how to be. Then, for the first time in what feels like years, you hear a voice. Not a whisper. Not a rumor. A voice. A woman's. Somewhere in the square, dot singing dot, you don't know the words. You don't know the tune. But your bones recognize it. The same way they recognize the cold. The same way they recognized the man who came for the bone blade. You leave the forge burning. You step outside, and the city greets you with nothing but the song and the ash. You follow the voice because it's the first thing that's ever called you by name. The voice does not tremble. It moves through the air like thread through cloth, slow and unbroken, pulling the edges of the silence together until even the ash seems to fall more softly. You don't run. You don't call out. You just walk, one step at a time, hammer still at your side, palms black with soot and still dust. You follow the melody not like a man chasing something, but like a man returning to something that never stopped waiting for him. The square is empty, but not dead. Ash lies deep along the edges, piled like snowdrifts in winter. Statues are half buried, their eyes blind, mouths clogged. The platform where they used to hang men is gone. Not collapsed, not burned, just gone. Nothing left but 4 perfect holes in the stone, as if the wood had never been nailed in. Only borrowed dot the song comes from the center. She stands where the gallows once were, alone. She does not wear a cloak, yet the ash does not touch her. Her feet are bare, but they leave no print. Her eyes are closed, her mouth slightly parted, and still the sound pours from her like breath. Steady, mournful, old, older than kings. Older than fire, older than even the word for death. You don't speak. You stand 10 paces away and lower your eyes because some part of you still remembers what reverence is supposed to feel like. She finishes the song and silence returns, but it's not the same silence. It's not the weight that's been crushing the city for weeks. It's not the absence of things. It's the quiet that follows a truth, a kind of stillness that waits to see if anyone understood. She opens her eyes. They're gray, not like winter sky, but like stone that remembers having been a mountain. She looks at you for a long time, then she speaks. You're the last fire in the city. You don't answer. They will come for it. Still you say nothing. She steps forward, slow, quiet, until she stands just within the reach of your breath. You smell nothing on her. No perfume. No blood. No smoke. Just air. Not to take it. To see if it dies when they do. She lifts one hand, not toward you, but toward the sky. And you look up, through the fog, through the ash. Through the last threads of cloud, the shape moves, not flying dot, falling dot slow. Vast, no wings, just descent. Something between smoke and memory. You look back to the woman, she's already gone, but in her place, something lies on the ground. A ring dot, not gold. Not iron, not bone dot, stone dot dark. Smooth, still, warm. You do not pick it up. You return to the forge. You do not lock the door. You do not sleep. You finish the blade, the one you didn't plan. It is heavier than it should be, but it sings under your hands. It hums like the old anvil did, before the cracks formed beneath the horn. You oil it slowly. You wrap it in cloth taken from your bedroll. You leave it on the hearthstone. At dawn, you light no fire. You stand in the center of your shop, hands empty, Apron stained with all the years you thought you were only shaping tools, and then it happens. A knock dot soft dot once, dot ned open the door, dot past the wind. For the first time in weeks, it's not dry. It carries the scent of pine dot, and beneath it, snow dot, not ash dot, not death, not forgetting, real. Snow dot cold enough to sting your lungs. You step outside and the sky has changed. The ash is gone, the clouds are parting. And in the distance, somewhere beyond the rooftops, beyond the shattered bell tower, beyond even the memory of the Red Keep, a horn sounds again, not war dot, not warning, dot welcome, dot you do not go back inside. You walk slowly into the white. You leave the door open, letting the warmth escape so that someone else might find I know what it means to remain. You walk slowly as if each step is a farewell, a goodbye to the stone beneath your feet, to the splinters in the boards, to the cracks in the hinges you repaired 1,000 times, but which creaked in their own way regardless. Everything around you seems to know that you are leaving. The city doesn't cry, doesn't scream, doesn't beg. It simply watches you move across its body, like the last vessel still carrying something warm. Snow settles on your shoulders evenly, as if testing you, as if wondering whether you'll accept its weight, its cold, its silence. You don't brush it off. You don't walk faster. You simply carry it the way you carried your hammer, the way you carried heat, the way you carried all the words you never said to a single soul who passed through your forge. The streets are empty, but you are not alone. The city walks with you, not in crowds, not in voices, but in the shadows of those who once lived here. You pass places that used to sell bread, now nothing but blackened wood that still holds the faintest trace of cinnamon if you breathe slow enough. You pass a wall where someone once scrawled, "The king is dead." Then someone else crossed it out and wrote, "The king never was." Both were right. They all were, and none of them. You were the witness. You forged their swords, their chains, their shields. And now, you forge only your steps. You head toward a sound that hasn't come yet. It's not calling, but it's waiting. Along the way, you pass the old well. There's nothing in it anymore. No water, no ice, just darkness. Like it no longer goes down, only out. You don't peer inside. The well is already looking up. Let it be the first thing that never sees where you go. You turn down a side street that once smelled of fish, then of death, now of nothing. And there, just past the broken arch, you see them, sitting, still, not watching. 3 figures. Draped in gray, no faces. One holds a bowl, the second a bug, the third nothing at all. You don't ask who they are, you just know. You came by them, and they came by you. They don't stand. They don't follow. Their part is done. Yours is just beginning. You walk past Dot, the snow deepens. It doesn't crunch beneath your boots. It doesn't warm or resist. It simply exists the way you do. Ahead there's a glow, not flame, not sunlight. Just light, the kind you see outside a door where someone still lives. But no one's waiting with bread. No one's waiting with salt. That glow is an invitation. It's judgment. You reach it and see not a house, not a temple, not a camp. A cliff, and carved into the cliff, a door. No hinges, no handle. Just a circle etched into older stone, surrounded by another shape even older still. You place your hand on the circle. The door breathes. It doesn't open. It doesn't speak. It breathes in response to your touch. It recognizes you, not your face, not your name. The heat still left in you when everything else went silent, and you understand this is not a door for entering. This is a door for carrying something through, for bringing fire where it forgot how to burn. You stand before it for a long time, not from fear, from respect, and then you enter. There is no threshold, no step, no passage, no seam where one world ends and another begins. One moment you are standing before the stone, the cold against your palm, the weight of ash in your breath, and the next, you're inside. But not inside in the way a room holds walls. Inside in the way memory holds a name long after the tongue forgets how to shape it. The darkness here is not the absence of light. It is presence. It moves. It watches. It waits for you to blink first. You do not. You move forward, or what you think is forward. The air bends around you like old leather, stretching just enough to make space, then sealing itself behind you as if erasing your existence one step at a time. There is no echo here. No sound of footfall, no breath against the back of your teeth. Only motion and the slow realization that something ahead is listening. The forge sheet still clings to you, faint, fading, like smoke in your hair. You feel it retreating with each step, not pulled, not stolen, but surrendered. You let it go. You didn't come here to carry what was. You came to find what comes after. Then there's light. Not sudden, not sharp. A slow revealing, like a sheet being lifted from something that has been waiting to be remembered. The space opens not outward, but downward, a vast hollow beneath the mountain or beneath the world itself. There is no sky, no stars, just the soft glow of embers scattered across black stone, like coal dropped by giants who didn't care to gather it again. Dot at the center, the anvil. You don't question how it got here. You know it was always here, taller than you, smooth as water-worn iron, no cracks. No rust, just form, perfect, patient, waiting. There are no walls, no forge, no bellows, but you feel the fire anyway. Not in the stone, in the air, in the silence. You approach without hurry. Your boots leave no mark on the ground. It is not soil, not metal. Something in between, something older than either. It doesn't remember footsteps, only intention. When you reach the anvil, your hands move on their own. You unwrap the last blade, the one you carried but never named, the one no customer asked for, no coin purchased, no war demanded. Its weight is unchanged, its edge still hums. But here in this place, it is different, as if it too has found its purpose and is afraid to speak it aloud. You lay it on the anvil. The stone breathes beneath it. Not crackling, not ringing, breathing. And from the far side of the void, across the hollow where the shadows thicken and the glow dims, something stirs. You feel it before you see it, like the pressure before thunder, like the space between one breath and the next when you don't know if it will return. A shape begins to form, not stepping forward, not emerging, unfolding, tall, robed in layers of dust and cloth and time, face hidden beneath a hood woven from strands that shimmer like snow and coal. Its hands are not hands. Its voice is not voice, but it speaks, and you understand. You have brought it to the place of weight. You nod. Do you know its name? You shake your head, then it may serve. It reaches forward, not to take the blade, but to touch the anvil itself. The surface glows faintly where it makes contact, then darkens again, as if marked, as if blessed, as if condemned. It is not for you to strike it. You do not ask who will. You already know. It turns to go, not walking, not floating, just ceasing to be where it stood, and the space it leaves behind does not fill in. It remains empty, like a wound. You stay. You sit beside the anvil, and for the first time since the city burned, since the bones were shaped into edge, since the last fire flickered behind you, you rest. Because the blade is here, because the silence has a shape. Now, because someone will come, and this time you won't need to. Listen. You will watch. And the world will change. You do not measure the time that passes. There are no hours in this place, no bells to mark the day, no light to stretch or shrink your shadow. Only the anvil, the blade, and the hollow hush that surrounds them both. You eat nothing, drink nothing, sleep in brief stretches when your body insists, curled beside the stone like a soldier beside a fire he no longer believes in. You do not dream. You do not need to. Everything that could be dreamed is already here. The blade never cools. It does not burn, does not glow, but it never loses its breath. That slow, patient hum of potential. You have forged many weapons. You have seen swords of pride, daggers of poison, axes that crave blood. But this one feels different, not hungry. Not angry, just ready. Like a held breath waiting for a mouth to belong to. Then, one day, or one moment, or whatever word fits this place best, you hear the sound, not footsteps, not breathing dot, metal dot, not clashing dot away. Finally set down dot, you rise. You do not ask who it is. You simply wait. She enters the circle of light without caution, without hesitation, her figure carved in silhouette, tall, wrapped in pale cloth streaked with soot and snow, hair bound in a long braid that reaches past her waist, eyes the color of flint just before the spark. She carries no sword, no armor, just a staff made of dark iron, twisted like rope, its tip capped with a single shard of glass that reflects nothing. She sees you, you see her, there is no recognition. Only agreement dot, she walks to the anvil, dot stops, dot looks down at the blade. She does not touch it, she does not need to. The blade knows. And in that breathless silence, you finally understand something you never dared to admit. This was never your story. This was never your weapon. You were the flame, the tool, the memory, the echo of every choice that came before, the warmth that kept the blade alive until she arrived. She turns to you dot, speaks dot, her voice is quiet, not soft, quiet. A blade sheathed. You tempered it well. You nod once, your throat is dry. It has been dry for years. The world above is waking. She says, you say nothing. It does not know what it wakes for. You step aside dot, she reaches for the blade dot, no ceremony, no flourish, just purpose. She lifts it, not easily, but without struggle. Like someone lifting the final word in a sentence written long ago. The hum deepens. The anvil darkens beneath it. The forge that never burned breathes one last breath. Then silence, but not the old silence, a new one, full of waiting things. She turns, nods once in your direction, not in thanks, not in command, just in knowing, then walks back the way she came. You remain behind, alone again, but not empty, because you understand now some men carry swords, some men carry fire, and some are meant to stay behind to remember how the world was made before it ends. You stay, not because there's nowhere to go. The path she took remains open, carved by her presence, still warm in the air, but because you understand what staying means now, not absence, not failure, not fear. It means holding something in place long enough for others to pass through it. A bridge does not walk, a root does not bloom, but without either, nothing rises. So you remain. The forge is dark, the blade is gone, the anvil has cooled. The breath beneath the stone has ceased, and still you sit. The silence is full again, not with dread this time, but with echoes of purpose. You can hear where her footsteps were. You can feel the place in the air where she took the blade. It's like heat still clings to her shape, even though she's long gone. You breathe it in. You hold it in your ribs. You don't sleep, not in the old way. You drift. You think of sounds from your life above. The splash of water in the forge basin, the scrape of coal in the chute, the hiss of metal hitting oil. You think of all the names you never learned, all the hands that passed you silver and copper, all the soldiers who came back for repairs, but never for thanks. You remember the boy with no teeth, the girl with red thread, the woman who never sang until the world had ended. You remember the weight of the hammer, you remember the weight of your own name, and then something changes, not a sound, not a tremor, a presence. The kind of shift you feel in your bones before your mind catches up. The way a craftsman feels when a piece finally fits after days of shaping. The way you once felt when you forged a blade and knew, without needing to test it, that it would not fail. Something is here, not behind you. Not beside you, beneath you rise. You don't know why. You just do. You walk to the edge of the platform, the wide black circle of stone that holds the anvil at its center, and place your hand on the ground. It's warm. Not heat. Life. Like a heart buried far, far below, still beating. Slow. Reluctant. Resilient. And that's when you hear it. One sound. Small. Distant. But clear. Steel on stone. Not battle. Not forging. A single drop. As if someone, somewhere far below, has begun again. You close your eyes. You listen. You understand. It is not over. You thought you were the last. You were wrong. You were just the first to wait. And now others will come. Not heroes. Not kings. Just hands. Hands that remember how to shape heat into hope. You kneel beside the anvil. Place your palm flat against its cold surface and whisper something no one will ever hear. Not a prayer. A welcome. You feel them before you see them. The way iron feels the storm before the clouds arrive. The way a blade knows the breath of its wielder before it tastes blood. It begins as vibration, too soft to name. A ripple through the stone beneath your knees. A shiver across the skin of this hollow place that has not known footfall since the woman with the braid walked away carrying the blade you made. Then breath, not yours. A sharp inhale from the mouth of someone who has never tasted air this still. It enters the chamber like it doesn't belong here. Fast, uncertain, full of questions it doesn't dare ask. You do not rise. You do not speak. You listen the way you always have. There are 3 sets of steps, 2 light, nervous, 1 heavy, limping. Someone wounded. Someone older. Someone who knows what pain is and no longer wastes time hating it. You hear them cross the outer ring, cautious, halting. You hear the sharp whisper of one to the other. Told you it wasn't a myth. Another voice answers, lower, drier. Shut your mouth before it hears you. Then silence. Then breath again. Then more footsteps, slower this time. Like the space itself has pressed fingers to their chests and asked them to think carefully before moving forward. You do not greet them. You wait. They reach the edge of the anvil circle and stop. You don't look yet, but you feel their eyes on your back. You feel the weight of expectation, not from them, but from the world that sent them. Whatever's left of it, finally one of them speaks. A woman, young, the kind of voice that has learned not to tremble even when it wants to. Are you the one who makes the weapons? You rise slowly, your joints crack like old wood. Your breath catches for just a moment, then releases. You turn. 3 figures stand before you. A girl, maybe 20, eyes sharp, hands calloused. A traveling blade strapped to her back, chipped, dull. A tool that's forgotten it was once meant for anything more than survival. A boy beside her, barely older than a squire, face smudged, holding a book as if it might explode. And behind them, a man, taller than both, wrapped in gray, with one arm bound to his chest and the other clutching a walking stick made of splintered oak. His eyes are the only thing not broken. You nod once. The girl steps forward, nervous, hopeful, defiant. We found it, the place. Just like the story said, we followed the signs. The ash, the breath, the silence. You look down at her blade. You raise an eyebrow. That's not what you're here for. She flinches. The boy stiffens. The old man closes his eyes, exhales through his nose like someone who's just realized something he hoped wasn't true. You continue. You didn't come for a weapon. You came because something inside you remembered fire. The girl opens her mouth, closes it, then quietly, "Is that what this place is?" You shake your head. No, this place is the silence fire leaves behind. A long stillness. Not empty. Full dot, then the old man speaks for the first time. We're not the first to come here, are we? You say nothing. He nods. But she was. You nod, and she took the blade. You nod again, and now? You look back to the anvil, Dot. It is cold, but not dead. Now we wait for what she stirs awake. The boy steps forward, lifting the book in his hands. He opens it. The pages are mostly blank, except for a single line scrawled in the middle of one page. He reads it aloud. When the world forgets how to burn, find the place that remembers. You say nothing. They understand. The girl sets down her blade beside the anvil, not because it is needed, because it no longer is. The old man sits. The boy begins to write, and you. You kneel once more by the anvil, Dot, and begin preparing the coals. Because someday another will come, and they will need warmth before they know what for. She wakes to the sound of breath. Not hers, slower, steadier, heavier. The kind of breath that belongs to someone who sleeps like stone. She stays still for a moment, eyes closed, listening. There are no birds here, no wind. Just that breath and the low, constant murmur of fire. Not the kind that roars, the kind that waits. When she opens her eyes, the forge is still glowing, dimly like the last ember of a world that forgot how to stay warm. The boy is curled up on the floor across from her, his face pressed into the spine of the book he never lets go. The old man sits upright with his back against the wall, staff across his lap, his eyes closed, but not deeply. He doesn't sleep like the young. He just shuts down pieces of himself one at a time. She stands. Her muscles ache, not with pain, with memory. She walks barefoot across the stone, past the anvil, past the wall where the air still hums faintly with the presence of whatever lived here before them. She places her hand on the old forge stones and feels the ghost of heat under her palm. Then she speaks. It's not enough. The boy stirs. The old man opens one eye. What? She doesn't look back. The warmth. It's not enough. Not to keep it alive. Not to bring it back. The old man doesn't answer right away. He shifts, straightens, grunts once. Then what is? She turns now. Her face is pale, marked with soot, but her eyes burn. Not brightly, steadily. We need to find her. The woman who took the blade. The boy sits up. His voice cracks slightly. How would we even know where she went? She shrugs. Not carelessly, with purpose. We follow the silence. The old man shakes his head. The silence is everywhere. Not like that. Not the kind that means death. The kind that listens back. She crosses to the far edge of the forge, kneels beside a crate, pulls it open. Inside are scraps of metal, rusted hinges, unfinished shapes, the leftovers of someone else's life. She starts sorting them fast, with urgency in her fingertips. If she took the blade, she changed something. That kind of steel doesn't stay still. It echoes, and people follow echoes. The boy flips to a new page in the book, begins writing again, his hand shaky. Do you even know how to track something like that? No, but I know how to move through a world that's about to break. The old man watches her for a moment, watches her pull leather and cloth, watches her start wrapping tools and pieces, watches her make herself smaller, faster, quieter. He doesn't stop her. Then we leave at dusk, he says. She nods. The boy looks up. We'll come back, right? To the forge? She pauses. Looks at him. We'll leave it burning. But what if no one's left to carry it? She walks to him, takes the book from his lap, flips to the last page, draws a single shape, a circle, inside it a line. No words, just a mark. She hands it back to him. Someone will know what it means. She walks out first. Not quickly, but with certainty. The boy follows. Then the old man, and behind them, in the empty forge, the fire breathes once more. Not louder. Not higher, but deeper, as if remembering how to wait. Let's follow her. The woman who took the blade. the first to walk away from the amble. We follow her not as she was, but as she has become. The blade is heavier now. Not in her hand, it moves like breath when she calls it. But in the world around her, it pulls weight from the air, from stone, from eyes that dare to follow her as she passes. People don't speak to her. They step aside. They lower their heads. Sometimes they whisper after she's gone. Not words, just sounds, as if trying to name something they never learned a word for. She doesn't speak to them either, not because she thinks herself above them. She remembers too well what it was to walk in torn boots and hunger, but because she knows how quickly a voice becomes a symbol, how quickly a symbol becomes a mistake. Her silence is not power, it is protection. From them, from herself. She moves across a land that no longer knows its own shape. Once there were roads here, villages, rivers that fed the bones of the land. Now only the bones remain. Charred posts, empty wells. Trees that lean away from her path as if listening to something older in the blade she carries. She doesn't travel straight. She doesn't travel fast. She moves the way water finds a crack. Slowly, inevitable. Sometimes the dead speak to her, not aloud. In the wind, in the weight of a ruined helm buried in sand, in the outline of a door still standing where the house is gone. They tell her nothing she doesn't already know, that the war ended long ago and the world never noticed, that kings fell and no one rose to replace them, only quiet and cold and time, that what was burned can still burn again. If the right spark returns, she sleeps little. When she does, it's beneath trees that no longer bear leaves, near streams that freeze without frost. She wraps the blade in cloth, places it at her side like a name she hasn't spoken in years. She dreams not of fire, but of breath, long, slow, ancient, something waiting, something buried, something that once was flesh and is now only hunger learning how to wear a shape again. The world does not resist her. That frightens her more than any blade ever did. One day, she reaches the edge of a village that shouldn't exist. It's quiet, but not dead. The houses are intact. The fences are whole. Smoke rises from chimneys, faint and blue. But no one walks the streets. No carts, no dogs. No sound but the gentle crack of wood and the shift of her own weight on gravel. She moves forward slowly. The doors are not locked. The windows are not broken. She passes through one home, then another. Tables set, bread uneaten, blankets still warm. Something left, not in haste, not in fear. In reverence, then she hears it. A voice, soft, flat, mechanical. A child's voice, singing, words she doesn't know, in a language she almost remembers. She turns. The sound comes from the well. She approaches, looks down. Nothing, that just darkness. But the song continues. And this time she hears her name in it, not her true name. Not the one she was born with, the one the forge gave her. She steps back, draws the blade. The air around her sharpens. The well exhales. The smoke from the chimneys. Stops. Everything in the village. Stops. And in that stillness, something begins to rise. It rises slowly, not with violence, not with speed, but with the same inevitability as breath returning to lungs long denied air. The darkness inside the well does not pour out. It unfolds, like cloth soaked in memory, like steam rising from stones that have never known cold. The song continues, but now it is layered. The child's voice still at the surface, high and soft, but beneath it, something deeper, something vast, something that does not sing in words, but in intention. The kind of voice that does not ask to be heard. It assumes it already is. She does not move. The blade in her hand begins to hum again, not as it did at the anvil, not as it did the day she first carried it away from fire. This is different, a frequency more than a sound, a pressure behind her eyes, like the world reminding her it is watching. The blade remembers something, and so does she. From the mouth of the well, a shape begins to form. At first it looks like smoke, but denser, edged with bone. Not skeletal, remembered bone. The idea of it. The idea of a body, hands that are too long, a face with no features, just absence where eyes should burn. It has no weight, but the earth reacts as if it does. Stones crack. Frost forms on the doorframes. The trees bend toward it as though drawn not by wind, but by resignation. It does not speak to her. It speaks into her. Words she doesn't know flood her mind. Images. Voices. A field of corpses with blades stuck upright like graves. A tower made entirely of tongues. A child crowned and blindfolded, laughing as birds pluck out his teeth one by one. These are not threats. They are truths, histories. This thing rising from the well is not death. It is memory given form. Memory that was buried too long and now has decided to breathe again. She raises the blade. The air resists her. The thing pauses. Its presence shifts. No longer towering, no longer monstrous. It draws in on itself, becomes more human, more precise. A woman now, tall and veiled, with hair like smoke and a voice that arrives without sound. You brought it, not a question. A statement carved into the marrow of her spine. She nods once. You know what it means? She doesn't speak. It means this world has decided to remember what it bled to forget. The figure steps forward, her feet leaving no mark, her eyes still hidden. You think it's a weapon. It's not. She grips the blade tighter, not in defiance, in certainty. It's a key. Silence stretches again. Somewhere far away, a bell rings. One tone, long, hollow. The woman from the well raises her hand. You can leave it. Return to the ash. Live quietly while the old names eat each other. She doesn't answer, or you can come with me. Stillness. Deep. Full. Then, where? The woman tilts her head, where it was made. For a long time, she does not move. The village around her remains frozen, as though the choice she makes will determine whether time begins again at all. She lowers the blade slightly, not in surrender, in readiness, and she says only this, lead. The woman turns, the well closes behind them, not with stone or seal, with silence, and they walk, side by side, into the place where blades are not forged, they are remembered. The path they take does not wind or rise, it descends. But not as stairs do, not like a tunnel or cavern, more like falling forward through stillness. The world does not pass them, it folds around them. Trees that were not there now stand at the edges. Stones appear beneath each step as if placed by unseen hands just moments before their feet arrive. There is no sound of walking, no crunch of earth or rustle of cloth. Only breath, slow and even, and the occasional whisper of something deeper echoing far below. Not voices, not words, just the quiet suggestion that something ancient stirs each time her foot meets the ground. She carries the blade across her back, now, It does not hum, It waits. As they walk, she watches the figure beside her. The woman is neither living nor dead. Her body moves like smoke that once remembered flesh. Her presence is not cold, not hostile, just unfinished. Like a sentence left half-spoken or a name no one was ever meant to pronounce. Eventually, the trees thin. The light changes, not brighter, not darker, but older. The sky here has no stars, no moon, no weight. It is a veil stretched taut, colorless and unyielding. The wind moves, but only to circle, never to pass. The ground turns flat and dry, cracked in long veins of black stone that glow faintly with memory. Not heat, not magic, memory. They reach a gate. It stands alone, massive, made not of metal or wood, but of something that resists naming. A texture like bone smoothed by centuries, etched with symbols that seem to shift when not directly observed. Two great pillars hold it, and across the lintel a single phrase is carved, not in a language she knows, but one she understands. Only what remembers can remain. The woman places her hand against the gate. It does not open. Instead, it sinks. The world around them descends in one breath, the horizon pulled inward, the land folding like paper until everything is still, and they are somewhere else entirely, not beneath, not beyond, but before. Before ruin, before King's Dot, before the first time anyone picked up a sword and imagined it could name the world Dot, she sees the forge Dot. It is not a place. It is a shape of purpose, spread across the landscape like a scar turned holy. Mountains are its ribs. Rivers are its cooling channels. The sky above it shimmers with ash held perfectly still, unmoving despite the wind that no longer exists here. At the center, a fire that has never known the word begin. The woman turns to her. This is where they made the first. Her mouth is dried out. She speaks low. The first what? The woman answers without looking. The first forgetting. They walk now across black stone paths, etched with spiral carvings and buried names. The closer they draw to the center, the harder it becomes to think, not because of fear, because thought itself is dulled here, like steel against uncut stone. Every step feels like pulling meaning from fog. When they reach the flame, it is not fire Dot, it is a heart Dot. It pulses slowly in the air, suspended above an altar that is not stone, but forged time, layered moments hammered flat and folded into form. The heart beats without sound. With each pulse, the wind outside the forge forgets itself again. The woman gestures to the altar. Lay it down. She reaches for the blade Dot. It resists, but not violently. Like it wants to be sure. Her fingers close around the hilt. She draws it slowly, unwraps it, and steps forward. The altar hums before she even lifts the blade above it. The heartbeat quickens. She lays the blade. Across the altar and the forge remembers. Light erupts from the cracks in the stone, not blinding, revealing. Every name ever spoken to this blade blooms in her mind at once. Every death it caused, every oath it severed, every silence it preserved. The weight of all of it floods her limbs, pushes her to her knees. The blade doesn't glow. It acknowledges. It answers. It asks, will you carry this truth? The voice is not the woman's, not the forge's It's the blade It speaks without sound, without tongue. It speaks to the part of her that chose fire over forgetting. She doesn't speak. She reaches forward and takes the blade back. This time, it is warm. This time, it is alive. This time, it knows her name. She leaves the forge without needing to turn back. It does not vanish. It does not collapse. It simply closes the way an eye does, slowly, as if falling into a long, dreamless sleep. The path that brought her here does not exist anymore. Not behind her, not ahead. The land she walks now is not a place, it's a consequence. Every step she takes feels like it echoes backward through history, undoing something, unburying something. The blade is silent in her hand, but she can feel its memory pressing against her skin like breath on glass. The woman is gone, not disappeared, fulfilled, like a spark that has reached the end of its fuse. She did not say goodbye. She did not need to. She was never meant to walk beyond the forge. Her task was to deliver the past into hands, strong enough to carry it and now the weight is hers. The world she returns to is not as she left it. Trees are thinner, roads longer, the sky bruised and restless. Villages she remembers are gone, replaced by skeletons of stone and ash, as if time passed differently while she was gone, or as if the world responded to her absence the only way it knew, by unraveling itself in protest. People have begun to speak again, not with joy, not with fear, but with reverence. They whisper of fire in the east, of a woman with no name, of a blade that glows not with light, but with memory. a blade that sings when drawn, not a melody, but a reckoning. They speak of her without knowing they do. Her shadow passes over camps. Her footprints appear in places she hasn't walked yet. Rumors travel faster than her feet ever could, bending around her like wind around stone. One day, she enters a town that still stands, barely. A handful of wooden houses. A cracked fountain that leaks more rust than water. A bell that rings only when the wind feels generous. Children play without laughter. Elders sit without moving. They do not greet her as she walks in. They just stop what they are doing. Even the dogs lower their heads. At the center of the square, a man waits. Not a soldier, not a priest. Something between. His robes are simple but marked with ash. His face is smooth, untouched by fire, but his eyes carry the weight of someone who has stared too long at things that do not blink. He steps forward. "You've come," he says. She nods. "I've come back." He looks at the blade. His expression does not change. It remembers us. She draws it, holds it flat between them. The metal reflects nothing, and yet he sees himself. Old, young, afraid, cruel, kind, all at once. He takes one step back, then bows his head. Then we must prepare. She sheathes the blade. For what? He doesn't answer, not directly. He raises one hand and points toward the hills in the distance, and the column of black smoke rising beyond them. They found the other one? Her blood stills. There was another. He nods. Not made. Forgotten. Buried where men once swore never to speak again. A silence thicker than wind passes between them. What do they want with it? She asks. To remember, he says, but in the wrong direction. She does not ask more. She turns toward the hills. The blade hums softly now, not warning. Recognition dot, and for the first time since the forge, she speaks aloud to it. Then let's go see what they've chosen to wake. And she walks toward the fire, toward the other blade, toward the memory that does not want to be carried but fought. She walks into the hills, and the blade begins to warm. Not with heat, with memory. The kind that makes your breath shorter and your eyes shift toward the horizon without knowing why. Behind her, the town is already folding itself back into silence. Before her, the wind changes direction. It carries scent, ash, sweat, horse leather, and something older, blood that has dried under a banner too proud to lower. The man's words echo as she moves. They found the other one. No one should have. The blades were meant to be buried, separated by distance and silence, scattered like the bones of kings who swore they'd never rise again. But memory is a stubborn thing, and the world has forgotten how to forget. The road narrows. Carved stones mark the edges, half swallowed by time. She sees faces in the moss, the worn sigils of houses long fallen, a trout eaten by vines, a dire wolf split down the middle, a lion scratched to blindness. She passes an abandoned watchpost, its bell tower shattered. Someone has painted over the stone in red. The North remembers. She does not stop Dot at night. The dreams return. Not hers, borrowed ones. A woman with silver hair standing naked in fire, unburned. A man with a golden hand staring into a hearth, alone. A child with no face, speaking a name into the dark. None of these are her memories, but the blade remembers them. The blade has passed through hands that knew these people, feared them, followed them, bled for them. It offers these fragments not as warnings, but as compass points. History etched in pain. By the third night, she hears voices. Real ones, not dreams. She's close. She crouches by a ridge and peers down into a hollow lit by fire and steel. A camp, large, organized. Black tents ringed with guards. Horses fed, watered, restless. And at the center, a circle of flame, burning blue, too clean to be natural. Around it, a dozen figures kneel. Not praying, listening. She recognizes the symbols sewn into their cloaks, the spiral of the red priests, the three-eyed mark of the green dreamers, The burned hand of the Shadowbinders from Aseta as ends something new, a broken sun cradled by a crown of thorns. She has not seen that one before. They speak low, in tongues not meant for waking ears. One of them rises, tall, thin, his skin stretched pale over sharp bones. His voice is calm, steady. The sword remembers us, but it does not obey us. Murmurs ripple outward. We will make the other remember, says another. A woman with black cloth over her eyes. It is not ready. Someone protests. The pale man lifts a hand. The fire flares. Neither were they, yet they followed dragons. They bent the knee to fire. We offer memory, not flame. At the edge of the camp, chained between two trees, she sees it dot another blade, darker than hers, not polished, not straight, forged in panic, not precision dot it breathes, not visibly, but she feels it, the same way she feels storms before they form. She does not act, dot not yet. The wrong strike awakens things that do not sleep. Instead she waits, listens dot until, at last, a voice speaks that does not belong. A whisper from the tent shadows dot rough. Tired. She's here. All eyes turn dot no alarm dot just readiness. And from the largest tent, a figure steps out. Old armor, Lannister red, faded to rust. A face marked by fire and grief dot she knows that face. Not by name. By history dot Esset our Adam of the burned gate. Once bannerman to the queen dot now forgotten, but not by the blade. He steps forward, holding nothing. You've come for the other. She steps into the fireoigt dot her blade in hand. I've come for what shouldn't have been remembered. The silence that follows is not empty. It is full of recognition, the kind that passes between those who've never met, yet understand they are echoes of the same broken promise. Sir Adam does not reach for a weapon. He doesn't need to. The fire behind him burns steady and unnatural, fueled not by wood, but by belief, and the kind of pain that becomes doctrine. She takes one step forward. The blade in her hand remains still, yet the air around it shifts, a low tremble in the bones of the earth. It does not want blood. Not yet. It wants truth. Sir Adam speaks first. It's not like yours. She tilts her head. No, yours was made in fear. He nods once. We were losing. The queen was dead. The wolves were closing in. The old gods were silent, and the new ones were still learning how to lie. His eyes drift to the chained blade between the trees. So we forged a memory, not of what was, but of what we needed to believe. You forged a lie, she says. We forged a weapon, he replies, because the truth had already failed. The cultists behind him don't move. They remain kneeling, watching, listening. She realizes now, this gathering isn't just ritual. It's rehearsal. They are preparing something. Not war, not worship. Resurrection. She takes another step. The other blade, it remembers what never happened. Adam's mouth tightens. That's all most kingdoms are. Things that never really happened, but were remembered well enough. Her fingers tighten on the hilt. You're not kings. No, he agrees. We're what's left when kings die screaming. He gestures to the camp. They followed dragons, then they followed fire. Now they follow memory, because it's the only thing that doesn't rot. She raises the blade slightly dot. It doesn't glow dot, it darkens. A subtle dimming of the air, like light being swallowed by something deeper than shadow. That blade cannot be allowed to sing, she says. It's already humming. He replies dot, and then it moves, not the man. The blade, still chained between trees, it twists. Not metal dot will dot the chains rattle. Not from struggle, but in greeting. The way old friends do when they remember the same war. The blade is waking. The fire around the camp grows colder. The spiral-cloaked priest rises. The blindfolded woman begins to chant. The trees lean away. She takes one more step, and draws the line dot literally dot the tip of her blade cuts. A mark into the soil, a sigil older than the faith of the seven, older than the old gods, older than names. A circle broken by a single diagonal slash. I invoke the forge, she says. I invoke the right of return. The camp falls into absolute stillness. Adam's face tightens. That right is forbidden. By whom? She asks. The dead? For a moment he says nothing. Then, if you draw blood on that line, you bind this place to the old fire. Better the old fire, she says, than the new lie. She steps back, raises the blade. The chained one begins to sing, not in words, in pressure. The kind that makes teeth ache and stones cry. One of the cultists begins to bleed from the nose, another falls to their knees. Adam doesn't move. He just stares at her, tired, resigned, aware of what's coming. Then let it be memory against memory. He says softly, let it be truth against invention, and he draws his sword, not a sacred blade, not a relic, just steel. But behind him, the false blade pulls harder. The ground splits at its roots. Its song rises, and the night is torn open. Then let it end. Not with triumph, not with despair, but with the weight of what has been remembered. The blade in her hand moves first, not in violence, an answer. Its song does not rise. It deepens, thickens, like breath sinking into the lungs of something ancient. The mark she carved in the soil glows faintly, and the space around it bends. Not visibly, not like magic, but like memory being pulled back into the shape it once held. The false blade screams. A high, shrill vibration, not sound, but violation. The trees tremble. The fire turns black. The air fractures like glass unseen. One of the chanting priests claws at their own face, sobbing. Another crumples, whispering names that no longer belong to anyone alive. Adam steps forward. His steel sword raised, not as challenge, but as shield. You don't know what you're unmaking. She meets his eyes. They're human, tired, honest. Yes, she says, I do. Then she crosses the line. Her blade meets the false one, not in a clash of steel, but in something older. Their songs collide. Not in battle, in contradiction. The air implodes. Not with force, with rejection. The false blade shudders, cracks, it does not shatter, it unravels. Like a lie exposed. Like a myth recalled too sharply. The links of chain that held it fall limp, not broken, ashamed. The priests scream. The fire gutters inward. And the false blade's last sound is not rage, it is confusion. Then silence. Seer Adam falls to his knees, not wounded, not struck, just emptied. As though everything he built, followed, believed, was housed in that weapon. And now the house is gone, the trees still. The wind returns. She sheathes her blade, it is heavier now, not from weight, from recognition. It has seen its opposite. It has survived. She turns. Walks past Adam. He does not speak. But as she passes, he says, not to her, not to himself, but into the air, tell them we tried. She does not answer. There's no, they don't, not anymore by dawn. The camp is gone. The tents burned. The fire doused. The symbols erased. Only the line she drew remains, faint but unbroken. A mark in the dirt. Where memory once stood its ground, she walks on. Not toward home. There is no home now. Only a world that has one fewer lie to believe in. And a blade that remembers everything. Even this. Even you. Sleep now. You'll need it. The world will not remain forgotten for long.